Hi, my name is Dr. Rayshawn Ray, aiming to speak truth to power. This is my daily thought. The media, and by media specifically, I'm talking about mainstream media, cable news in particular, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, are huge problems in society today. All we have to do is simply look at data from the General Social Surveys, which is the largest data set used by social scientists, in particular sociologists, that's been used since the early 1970s up to the present to monitor attitudes. And if you look at some of these trends, saying confidence in news media, for example, you see that confidence in news media has been significantly decreasing over time. Part of that has to do with when we watch the news, and I mean, you could turn it on any channel. Now, I shouldn't just mention cable news. I mean, this could also be local news, even though you are getting information about what's happening in your local area. The news is overwhelmingly negative, and then it's oftentimes skewed either one direction or the other, either toward a liberal stand or a conservative stand. People feel as though they aren't getting a neutral perspective on what's happening in society. And instead, we're in what humanists call echo chambers. I mean, we're also seeing this in social media. This is the reason why a lot of people are turning to social media for information and news. And this is part of the reason for the proliferation in fake news sites, because people don't have a lot of confidence and trust in what's happening in cable news. And that's a huge problem. So for people who sit in the rooms and make decisions on what people should see, I think we need to start doing a broader evaluation and assessment on the type of information that people actually want to get. I mean, there are two recent incidents that bother me quite a bit. The first one is the Dakota Access Pipeline, which there's been a lot of information on social media, particularly in the academic realm, as it relates to these particular issues in the activist realm. But in mainstream media, cable news, we haven't hardly heard anything about this. I mean, in fact, we haven't heard President-elect Trump say much about it. In fact, we haven't heard President Obama say much about it. President Obama, in fact, when I talked about this earlier this year, when he discussed it, he was actually in another country and someone had to ask him about it. And he goes, I don't know a whole lot about that. I got to get back to that. I mean, and then people are in the Dakotas, Native Americans whose land is being invaded upon, whose water is being invaded upon, land that they were given as forms of reparations from the Trail of Tears being put off of their land throughout the South and the Midwest, are now being put off their land again when it's going to probably turn into swampland and other things that are contaminated, that people can't necessarily live and drink and consume, say like the water in Flint. I mean, these are the sort of issues that people are concerned with. Instead, when we look on the news, people are sitting up there arguing about this and that over and over again, having particular issues as it relates to different topics. So, I mean, for the Dakota Access Pipeline, that's something we should definitely be talking about. I mean, the second incident was something that troubled me for many reasons. I mean, partly, for one, I come from a long family history of healthcare providers, nurses, nurse practitioners. I know a lot of physicians in Jackson, Tennessee, which that also hit home because I'm from Tennessee, that there was a triage nurse who was working triage, meaning checking people in when they come into the hospital in the emergency room, and she's pregnant, and a patient who was there for, it's still unclear because we simply don't have enough information, but in short, she was stabbed roughly 100 times before someone came up, and before I guess the police came to and they ended up killing the man who was stabbing her. And as of now, she's in critical condition. It seems as though that her and the baby are alive, but I mean, they're, if both of them survive, and we pray that they do, I mean, their lives will never be the same. And as a person who watches his spouse go into an area, oftentimes a restricted space, to provide care for someone, and has had incidents, of her own in medical spaces where a life has been in danger, it's extremely troubling that this happened on Thanksgiving, and this isn't something that warrants national attention. And so, I mean, when we think about the news, we're seeing very skewed versions that people in the news media think is going to increase their ratings, instead of news that we need to be talking about to get at the heart of what's going on with some of the issues in America, as well as to highlight objectively what's going on. And this is the reason why I think scientists have to play a much larger role in what's happening. If you look at confidence in institutions, whether it be the medical field or my field in science more broadly, that science has a very high confidence rating because people view us as approaching things in a more objective manner. And that's what we aim to do. That's what we're trained to do. And so I think that as scientists across the board, whether you're a social scientist or specifically a sociologist like myself, or a biologist or a chemist or a computer scientist, I mean, all of these people in different fields that I'm fortunate to know, I think we have to do a better job of engaging with the public. And we have to do that because the public is trusting us and entrusting us to give them objective information. And unfortunately, what's happening now is that society doesn't trust the news media. And so the news media needs to do a much better job of doing those sort of things. And definitely, I mean, we need more analysis to really pinpoint, I mean, what do people view as being credible or not credible, or trustworthy or not, or what do they place their confidence in? But I mean, these were two incidents. The Dakota Access Pipeline, I mean, obviously has been happening for months now. But I mean, the incident that happened to the nurse in Jackson, I mean, my heart just goes out to her baby and her family. Just know that our family is praying for you in this moment. And I think these are the sort of things that we need to shine, that we need to focus on to actually allow people to contribute their time and resources in ways that they deem valuable. So, as always, conversations matter like Black Lives and Books, and I hope this has sparked one.